Hey there, hi there, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about the books I read in September, shall we? Okay, so I got through 13 books this month and I am ready to share. So at the beginning of the month, I did a bit of a deep dive into Sophie Lark. I started with her Brutal Birthright series. Now, I believe there are 6 books in this series, but I read the first 4, which we have Brutal Prince, Stolen Heir, Savage Lover, and Brutal Bloody Heart. I have to say, I was not disappointed. I love her writing so far, and I love that she writes a strong female character. If you've been around for any amount of time, which, let's face it, I haven't been around very long, but we know that I do not like a whiny heroine. I want somebody who's got a little bit of a spine, who has a little bit of a bite. I love that because the banter is great, and Sophie writes that perfectly. But with the Brutal Birthright series, you get mafia romance, you get dark romance. The 4 that I've read so far have all been dual POV, which again, I appreciate. And we start off with Brutal Prince, which is the story of Ada Gallo and Callum Griffin. Now, Ada is the only daughter of the head of the Italian mob in Chicago, and Callum is the only son of the Irish, the head of the Irish mob in Chicago. Now, these two meet when Ada and her brothers decide to crash Callum's sister's birthday party, and Ada gets a little bored. She goes up to the library. Callum comes in. She gets kind of stuck, and she accidentally sets fire to the library to not start an outright war and to lose even more family members. Their fathers decide to meet on neutral ground, and they come up with a plan. Ada and Callum are going to marry. So this ultimately will help out the Irish and the Italian mobs. It'll expand their numbers. Neither one of them want to do it. And I have to say, I loved Ada from the start. She is hilarious. The things that she does, the things that she did on their wedding night, hilarious. I laughed so hard. The banter between these two, the way that they plot to kill each other, like literally plot to kill each other in their heads and what they say to each other, it's fucking hilarious, and I absolutely loved it. And because they have that tension and that banter, it all works really well for their spiciness, because that is off the chain. Really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 stars, and I gave it a 3.5 for spice. That brings us into the second book, which is Stolen Heir. Now, this is Nessa Griffin's story, which is Callum's little sister, and we also follow Mikołaj, or Miko. He is the head of the Polish mob, and he becomes such when his father is murdered by one of the gallows. So, of course, he wants revenge. So his plan is to kidnap Nessa, so that this will form a wedge in between the gallows and the Griffins, the Irish and the Italian mobs, and kind of blame it on each other. And so they'll kill each other, and Miko really kind of has to, can keep his hands a little bit clean. And then when all is said and done, he is going to kill Nessa. The thing that I absolutely loved about this book was it is a Beauty and the Beast kind of retelling. And not only is it that, but it also has Beauty and the Beast inside of the story. So it's like a story within a story, kind of within a story. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I love that Nessa wasn't as hard and had that bite that Ada did, but she was badass in her own right. She was very smart. Now, coming off of Ada and Callum's story, this was a completely different dynamic. You have more of a grumpy sunshine dynamic here, and I just really adored this story. I gave it a 4.5 stars, and I gave it a 3 for spice. Which brings us to the third book, which is Savage Lover. Now, this follows Nero Griffin, one of Ada's brothers, and Camilla Rivera. So Nero is known as a ladies' man around town, and let's say he definitely gets around. But he has met his match with Camilla. Now, Camilla works at the family auto shop that she helps run with her father and her half-brother. And the two of them knew each other in school, but they really didn't hang around in the same groups. But because Camilla is now being kind of blackmailed by a dirty cop around town, she starts showing up places that Nero is. And because they're kind of in a forced proximity, they spark up a little bit of a friendship, and then it grows from there. I loved how Camilla was unapologetically herself. Like, she was who she is. She wasn't going to try to pretend that she was something that she wasn't. and she wasn't whiny about her situation. She just did what she had to do to provide for her family. I gave this one a 3.5 stars and a 3 for spice. And that brings us to book number 4, which is Bloody Heart. This is Dante Gallo's story. Now, I'm pretty sure that this book was highly anticipated because throughout the first 3, you get glimpses of Dante, but he's very mysterious, barely talks, is just, you get very little into it, and I think that sparked an interest of who is he and what is his story. So you finally get his story in book 4, and it did not disappoint. This is about Dante and Simone Solomon. Now, this is a second chance romance. Simone's father is a diplomat and a bureaucrat and very powerful, very rich, and Simone is a little sheltered. They actually meet when she's 18 and he is 21, when Dante actually steals the car that she is in, unbeknownst to him that she's in it. There is an instant spark between these two where they can't stop thinking about each other. Dante goes and finds her the next night. They start seeing each other in secret until some shit goes down and Simone leaves and they don't see each other or speak to each other, and he doesn't know where she's at. He doesn't go after her. She doesn't speak to him until years later when she shows back up in Chicago and Dante is forced to deal with his feelings and what is laid out in front of him. Dante did not disappoint. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars and a 4 stars for spice. If I had to rank the books so far in this series, I would say Stolen Heir is at the top. Then we've got Brutal Prince, Bloody Heart, and then Savage Lovers. I'm really excited to get into book number 5, which is Callum's other sister, Riona. Next, I read No Tomorrow by Carrie Cole. Okay. Carrie Cole has cemented herself with me. I have not read very much from her. I think that this book was the second book that I've read from her, and her writing style is just magnetic. It pulls you in. It does not let up. You have to finish it. There is no, I'm going to put this down and go and do something else, because you can't concentrate. So this book follows Piper and Evan, or Blue as he is known. Piper meets Blue at the park across the street from her office building where she takes lunches at. He is a homeless musician and he immediately intrigues Piper. He's just got a voice that like she's never heard before, and he's very interesting. They spark up a bit of a friendship, and then that turns into a relationship. And God love Piper, she does try to rein Blue in and get him to live a quote unquote normal life, where, or domesticate him, and Blue is just not having that, because this book deals with mental illness and drug abuse, so trigger warning there, do with that what you may, but it is beautifully, beautifully written. So one day, Blue says, I'm going to go get us some coffee and bagels, their normal thing, and he never returns. Years later, Piper hears one of Blue's songs on the radio, and turns out he is now a famous musician with a very well-known band. That's all I'm going to say. There is no way that I can do this book justice. I just have to say, you need to go read it. It is absolutely beautiful. It slayed me. It was amazingly written, and a book that I will come back to again. Please do yourself a favor and just go read this book. I obviously gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I gave it a 3.5 stars for spice. Next up, I read Out of Bounds by Lucia Franco. This is the companion novel to the Off Balance series. It came out September 6th, and then I think the physical copies came out like a week later, September 12th or something like that. But of course, I had to get this. I absolutely devoured it. It was amazing. So like I said, this is a companion novel, so it's not a full-length novel. It has a playlist in it, which, can I say, fit Kova and Rhea to a fucking T. It had a love letter from Kova. It had some excerpts from Rhea and Kova's notebook. And then the icing on the cake was the interview between Kova and Lucia, which I thought was absolutely epic. It made me laugh out loud. You get Kova's smart-ass mouth, which, I mean, it's Kova. I was so ready to just dive right back into that universe and get a little bit more of Kova and a little bit more of Rhea. And it was great. If you've read the Off Balance series, you have to pick this up. I mean, you have to add it to your collection. And a little bonus from Lucia. She is writing Avery and Xavier's story, which is Ria's best friend and brother. Avery was like my breath of fresh air through the entire Off Balance series, and I absolutely loved her. I'm so glad that she's getting her own story because she had a lot of shit going on, and I'm really excited to get to see her story because I loved everything about her in the Off Balance series, so really excited about that. But as I said, I was really excited to get back into this and get a little bit more of the Russian that we all love. Of course, I gave it 5 stars, and I gave it a 2 for spice. That brings us to the next book, which was Happily Letter After by Vi Keelan and Penelope Ward. This is a dual POV. It's a grumpy sunshine, and it's a single dad trope. This follows Sadie and Sebastian and his adorable little girl, Birdie. Sadie works at a popular magazine. She writes a dating column, but every year she does this secret Santa thing where kids will write in, make wishes to Santa, and she gets to grant a few of them. Birdie writes into Santa months early, and Sadie takes an immediate connection with Sadie. Birdie's bringing up is very similar to that of Sadie, and so she she inserts herself into Sebastian and Birdie's life, and instead of coming clean in the numerous instances that she can, she decides to continue the charade, which I kind of found a little off-putting. There was a little bit of a twist in the middle and then towards the end that I found a little endearing. Overall, this was more of a meh for me. I did enjoy it. Birdie was absolutely adorable, so I gave it a 3.5 stars, and I gave it a 2 for spice. The next book I have is Without You by Marley Valentine. This is another dual POV. It is a male-on-male romance, and it follows Deacon and Julian. I'm not going to go into too much detail with this one. This is about Deacon and Julian. Deacon's brother, Rhett, has just died of cancer, and he's home for the funeral. Julian is Rhett's best friend and boyfriend, and he actually lived next door to them growing up, so they've always really known each other. And Declan's really never liked Julian, but now all of a sudden they end up starting a relationship. Now, I really liked the dynamic between Declan and Julian. I think that their relationship was really cute. I wanted to like jump in the book and give them both a hug because they were just so dang cute until we get into the bedroom, and those are some spicy scenes. You know, really, this is a romance. This is about Declan and Julian and how their relationship grew and just the absolute love that they have for one another. However, I do think that there could have been more context around Declan and his basic coming out, because you have a seemingly heterosexual man that has never been with another man, looked at another man or thought about another man, going from 0 to 100, and there was no transition, there was no internal conflict, there was no talking about it really, and I think that there was a platform for that, and I feel like that fell short, and I wish that there was a little bit of that. However, I really did enjoy the story. I think Julian and Declan are just the cutest ever. I gave this a 3.75 stars, and I gave it a 4 for spice. Next, I read Come Back For Me by Kareem Michaels. This is a second chance romance. It is a dual POV, and it does deal with abuse, both domestic and alcohol, that follows Connor and Ellie. Now, Connor has just been discharged from the Navy SEALs. He was wounded on active duty and is actually back in the town that he grew up in because his father just died, and him and his 3 other brothers are there to settle the farm and estate. Ellie and Connor met 8 years ago at a bar where they proceeded to have one night together. They didn't exchange names, they didn't exchange stories, but they had one epic night and then never saw each other again. However, both of them have never stopped thinking about each other and basically think of the other as like the one that got away. Now that Connor is back in town, guess who he runs into? I'm not gonna lie, this story had some really good parts, but it kind of lost me early on. It was extremely insta-love, and it was a little off-putting. It just wasn't realistic for me, and especially with the issues that Ellie went through and what she needs to overcome. It just didn't quite snap for me, but I did enjoy the supporting characters enough that I did give it a 3 stars, and I gave it a 2 stars for spice. Next, I read The Real by Kate Stewart. This is another romance, and it also deals with abuse. This is a dual POV and follows Cameron and Abby. Abby has come off of a bad relationship that's left her a little neurotic when she meets Cameron at a local coffee shop that she frequents basically every Saturday, and he airdrops a message on her Mac. A little bit of hesitation. They start interacting with one another, but Abby has some stipulations because of her past relationship. They can share anything about each other, but they're not going to share information about past relationship or the baggage that has ultimately come from that. They won't deal with promises or absolutes. It's basically like a glorified speed dating. This lasts about 2 months, and then their chemistry is so deep that they decide to give it a go. I did like this story. However, the twist was very predictable. I pegged that very early on into the story, and this was another issue of immense insta love for me. It was good, but the story did fall short for me. However, I really, really liked Cameron, his outlook, and the way that he dealt with the issues that he had in his personal life. He was an amazing character. I really did enjoy him. I gave this a 3.5 stars, and I gave it a 3 for spice. Next, I finally got to one of the books that I said I would get to in August, which is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. In true Colleen Hoover fashion, this captivated me from the start, and I couldn't put it down. I did read this in one day. I just love her writing. It's amazing. There's always a twist there. There's always something leading up to something else, and I loved it. But this is another dual POV. This follows Kenna and Ledger. Kenna has just spent the last 5 years in prison. She gave birth to her daughter Diem in prison, who is now 4 years old. Now I have to say, I think that this story captivated me in a completely different way because I am a mother of a 4-year-old, and Diem, the little girl, is 4 in the story. Kenna has never touched or seen or even held Diem. And I think of my daughter in the last 4 years, and having missed all of that just hurts this mama's heart in a completely different way. Just to not have been there for any of that, I don't know how I could have missed that. Obviously, it's harder because you were there for it, so you do know what you missed, whereas Kenna was never there. She doesn't know what she missed. So Kenna's boyfriend, Scotty, Diem's father, died in a horrible car accident, and she went to jail for that. Scotty's parents petitioned for custody of Diem, and Kenna was more than okay with doing that because she didn't want Diem to go to her mother, who is not good people, and she knew Scotty grew up really well, and so these people will take care of my baby. I'm okay with that. However, they also flipped the script and they petitioned to have her parental rights taken as well. And because she has no rights, they didn't have to update her on anything. Now that she's out of prison, she's back in the town that Scotty grew up in, where Diem is, and she doesn't want to disrupt Diem's life. She just wants to see her daughter. I just want to see my daughter. That's it. And like I said, this also follows Ledger, which is Scotty's best friend, and someone that Kenna wasn't able to meet before Scotty died. Now, Ledger has been a part of Diem's life since day one, and when Kenna comes back into town, she obviously has nothing. Ledger starts to see that maybe Kenna isn't the bad person that we all thought that she was, that we all made her out to be. And of course, because it's Colleen Hoover, the story unravels in the way that only Colleen Hoover can. I really loved how the story unfolds because Kenna writes to Scotty. So instead of doing like a Dear Diary or a journal, she writes letters to Scotty, and she writes about everything. She has written to him since his passing. And like I said, we get to see the story unfold through there. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4.5 stars, and I gave it a 1 for spice. Next, I read Torn by Carrie and Cole. Y'all, her writing. If you haven't read Carrie and Cole, please pick something up by her. Anything is good. Don't Kiss the Bride, No Tomorrow, Torn. Please pick something up by her. Listen, I did not know that I loved a tatted up, long-haired bad boy with a heart of gold until Carrie and Cole. Like, this is completely different from No Tomorrow, however, just as good. This follows Kenzie and Tor. This is best friend's father in an age gap, and mwah, yes, it is another dual POV, and like I said, it follows Kenzie and Tor, or Torin. Kenzie's parents had her at a very young age. I think they were 15. So Torin is the same age as them. He's 15 years older than Kenzie. When the story starts out, she's just shy of her 18th birthday. I think she has like a couple months. Torin has been in Kenzie's life since she was literally 1 day old. He is her pseudo uncle and has just always been there. He's been another caretaker for Kenzie. Her parents are both really popular rock stars. They both have their own subsequent bands. So they were always on the road with her growing up, and they didn't want her to be on the road every single time with them. However, she did join them, but when she wasn't on the road, Torin took care of her. So he's always been a constant in her life. From a young age, they did have a really deep connection, and it wasn't like that. It was just they had a really deep connection. And as she grew up and she matured and she went through puberty, that connection became a friendship because, again, he's always been there. He's always been a constant in her life where she knew that she could always come to him. He was always there. She just respects him. They have that connection until he comes to pick her up after a disastrous prom night, and he does something super fucking sweet, and a spark ignites between them. And they're both like, whoa, where did that come from? That's never been there before. And Torin freaks out. I mean, justifiably, he freaks out because he's an adult and he's like, listen, ain't nobody gonna believe that I haven't touched you all through your life, that I haven't somehow groomed you or something. No, and you're my best friend's daughter. There is no way. You need to leave. You need to go to your aunt's house. We need to have some separate time apart. Like, let that distance set in and everything will be better. However, that doesn't happen. Distance only ignites the passion that they have for one another. And when Kenzie comes back, she is 18 years old, and they decide, all right, we're going to give this a go, but here's the thing. We will do it in secret for X amount of time. And if it works and we want to be together, then we'll tell people. But if it's not going to work, then no harm, no foul. Like, nobody needs to know. We all know how that works out. The relationship they have together, it's palpable. Like, it was just, you wanted them to be together. Like, they were meant for each other. Like, they didn't know that they were meant for each other until it culminated in, oh my God, we're meant for each other. I love that Kenzie was very mature for her age. You know, she had to kind of grow up fast. She was in the rock star lifestyle for so long, and she saw her parents never being stable. So Kenzie wants that. Like, that's all she ever wanted was, I just want to be stable in life with a husband and kids and a family. That's what I want. I don't want to be a party girl. I just want to be stable right here. And that's exactly what Torin wants. These two are perfect. Their dynamic together is just amazing. I highly recommend if you like age gap. Torin is amazing. I gave this a 4.5 stars, and I gave it a 4 stars for spice. The last book I read for this month was Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. This is a YA mystery thriller. It is a dual POV that follows Ellery and Malcolm. Ellery and her twin brother Ezra have just moved to Echo Ridge, where their mother grew up, to live with their Nana while their mother is in rehab. And Malcolm has lived in Echo Ridge all of his life. He and his mother have kind of been local town pariahs because Declan, Malcolm's brother, was dating a girl who was found murdered in town. I enjoyed this book. I liked the whole whodunit aspect. However, I found it very hard at times to follow the multiple timelines. There are 3 generations of mysteries, and to try to remember the plethora of characters in this book and what character fit in what generation and what timeline sometimes became a little bit too much. And then there are other little mysteries dispersed in the book that are popping up as well. It was enjoyable, but there was too much. There was too much. I mean, can you even say that there was too much mystery? However, I did enjoy it. I gave it a 3 stars, and it's YA, so no spice. All right, on to the wrap up for this month. My top 5 for this month are Stolen Heir, No Tomorrow, Out of Bounds, Reminders of Him, and Torn. My most surprising read for this month, I'm going to say, was No Tomorrow, only because Blue, or Evan, has stayed with me. I really just want to go give that man a big old hug. It was just an amazing story. Please go read that that story. My biggest letdown for this month, this one was a toss-up for me. I could either go with The Real or Come Back for Me. They were both very insta-lovey. Parts of it were just unrealistic. Like, I just couldn't connect with that. And as for the most overrated book, I'm going to go with To Can Keep a Secret. As for my TBR for October, I've actually already filmed a video talking about all the books that I've compiled into a list that I plan to choose from in October. I will leave it up in a card for you here. I cannot wait to dive into this list, and I am literally jumping in today, and I will be sure to give you all the deets in my October wrap-up, so stay tuned for that. That's going to do it for our wrap-up. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already, because why not? Also, let me know down below what book or books are on the top of your list for October. I'd love to know what you're reading. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.